Senator Ricketts, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. Can we start out by, can you paint us a picture of what's going on right now?
Well, what has happened is Hamas, working together with Iran, has launched the biggest attack we've seen in Israel in a long, long time. Over 700 Israelis are dead. Between 100 and 130 have been kidnapped. And it really just is a savage, barbaric attack where these armed militants have gunned down seniors at a bus stop. They've captured women and raped them. They've kidnapped children. It is absolutely barbaric, and we need to support Israel. Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that they're at war with Hamas, and that's absolutely correct. They are at war with Hamas. This is really an act of war. It's the kind of brutality you see during war, and we've got to make sure that terrorist organizations like Hamas and terrorist states like Iran know that they cannot be successful when they attack democracies like Israel, and that's why we've got to support Israel.
Well, the president has said that the United States stands with Israel or one of our closest allies. What kind of response do you think we can expect from the United States?
Well, one of the things that I think we need to do is just have more than words. Certainly, we moved the aircraft carrier Gerald Ford off the coast of Israel to support. That's a good step. That's something necessary we should do. But I've got my team working on an amendment to defund the Palestinian Authority. If they're a real government, they should have stopped this. If they're not a real government, they shouldn't get our money. Either way, they need to be held accountable. And then Marsha Blackburn from Tennessee has got a letter going to the Biden administration to stop the transfer of $6 billion of our money to them, or their money that there was going to them, to stop them. And that really highlights just some of the failings of this Biden administration, where they have tried a strategy of appeasing Iran and allowing them to get the $6 billion. And then Iran turns around right away and plots this terrorist attack with Hamas to attack one of our strongest allies. So we really see just a naivety, or just, Secretary of State Blinken just doesn't know how the real world works. And that's just part of what's, this terrorist attack is being encouraged by the weakness the Biden administration is presenting.
Can you envision any scenario where Nebraska National Guard members could get called in, or Nebraska would be playing a role in this conflict?
Well, I think we can certainly support the state of Israel. I believe that there's going to be a rally tonight to be able to do that. We need to show our strong support that way. I don't envision Nebraska National Guard soldiers doing anything directly, but it is an opportunity for Nebraska citizens to be able to support nonprofits who are going to help take care of the victims. I mean, again, think about it. There's over 700 dead. There was 260 at that dance festival alone, young people who were gunned down in cold blood. Their families are in shock. There's still a number of people who've been held captive in Gaza right now. So there's going to be quite a bit of need to support Israel over the next coming weeks and months.
Yeah, the images are just heart-wrenching. It is horrific. We know that there are some American casualties. You mentioned hostages. Have we learned yet if there are any American hostages?
Well, we know some Americans have been killed, and we believe some have been taken captive. But at this stage, it's still too early to know for sure exactly how many, if any.
Okay. Do you feel any added pressure that the United States needs to get our house in order? And I mean that literally, with the House of Representatives, by getting the speaker situation solved. There's also the looming government shutdown. It seems like we're in a bit of disarray. Does this put pressure on the House to get things in order?
I think it certainly does highlight the need for the House to get a speaker elected. We've got a lot of important things we've got to take care of. This international incident supporting Israel is just one of them, but we also have a limited period of time here to be able to pass our own budget. And that's an important thing that we need to do, whether we're going to respond to issues domestically or internationally. And that's just another reason why we need to have a Speaker of the House. And so I encourage the House to move quickly to get somebody elected, because it is important that we continue to move forward on both our domestic and be able to make sure we're supporting our allies like Israel.
I want to circle back to what you said about Nebraskans seeing what's happening, and we just have this innate feeling like we want to help. What can we do? It is hard to sit idly by while there is so much suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where I think look to reach out to the nonprofits that are going to be supporting the victims that are of this terrorist attack in Israel. And that's one of the things I think Nebraskans can do directly to be able to help. And of course, just show their strong support. I mean, I'm just stunned when I see rallies around this country where people are endorsing this attack. I mean, when you show up to a rally that is anti-Israel and endorsing this attack, you're basically saying it's okay to gun down seniors. It's okay to rape women. It's okay to kidnap children. It's just unconscionable. These acts are barbaric. They're savage. We can't be endorsing this kind of behavior.
Is there anything else you would like to add, or you think it's important for our viewers, for Nebraskans to know?
Well, again, I just think it's important to remember that Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. They're one of our strongest allies, and they are at war, and we need to support them.
Okay. Thank you very much for your time.
Great. Thank you very much for having me on.
All righty. First question. Give me your take on the situation right now in Israel.
Well, it's tragic. It's devastating. And I think it is vital that we send a message that our ally, Israel, certainly has the right to vigorously defend itself. And I think we need to pay very close attention to what's happening, especially with what appears to be hostage situations, certainly the loss of life for Americans and others that should concern all of us.
What do you feel, without maybe saying too much, but what do you think is next for the United States when it comes to the conflict right now, or the war in Israel?
Well, I think we need to, make sure we have options on the table. I don't want to tie the hands of the executive branch, but I hope they pay close attention. I think the executive branch has been very dismissive of the dollars that are supposed to be, or maybe have already been sent to Iran. I'm very concerned about this, and yet these funds sent to Iran have seemed to be such a high priority for the administration. Time will tell, but I'm very concerned that these resources are ending up in the wrong hands. And there was a lot of concern expressed about this prior. I hope President Biden really pays close attention here and seeks collaboration across the aisle, or even within his own party, some folks who have some Democrats who have expressed concern as well.
I think the money you were alluding to was the $6 billion. I know yesterday on one of the news programs, Sunday afternoon type deals, Anthony Blinken went on and claimed that $6 billion hasn't been spent. It's in a bank somewhere, and the U.S. Treasury has eyes on it, and Iran can only use it for whatever. Do you have thoughts on that?
I don't really trust the Secretary of State. He said that something was Russian propaganda about Hunter Biden. No, it was accurate. It was negative about Hunter Biden. And Secretary of State Blinken, he's trying to protect the president. He's trying to protect his own legacy in terms of issues and policies. I'm very concerned, and I don't think the secretary is doing himself any favors by trying to dismiss this. It should concern all of us.
In the House, obviously, I'm going to tie this into Israel. You guys have to pick a speaker hopefully soon.
Right.
How does the situation of not having a speaker impact the United States' ability to help an ally like Israel?
Well, it's very disruptive, certainly to the even not considering the emergency nature of what happened in Israel. The fact that we are having such a huge distraction from business at hand. We were right in the middle, even with some momentum on the appropriations process that hasn't happened for over a decade or more. And we've seen this interruption. It's unfortunate. It actually was unnecessary. But let's get a speaker in place. Let's move forward. Make a very, very important decision moving forward.
To go back to the U.S.'s involvement in Israel, the Gerald Ford, I believe, is positioned in that area at this moment, just in case. It's hard to tell the future. I'm not asking you to be a fortune teller, but do you see the United States getting physically involved in this conflict?
Well, it wouldn't be my place to make those predictions. I do think it's important. when we are dealing with such important issues, and the fact that other countries and groups would seek to do us harm and our allies harm, let's make sure we keep all of our options on the table, and let's be strategic about this. Let's be direct. Let's be strong. But I'm concerned moving forward that the president, I think he has said there was a lid on all media interactions yet today. I'm not sure that that's a wise move on his part and his team's part. I'm concerned, though, that we need to sit up and pay attention. Let's not take anything for granted. Let's make sure that we support our allies at an appropriate time and place and with the appropriate resources.
And I don't necessarily think this is a Nebraska thing, but we talked about standing with Israel. The president, of course, has said that. But there are Americans sprinkled across the country who aren't necessarily upset about what's happening, that they are the side of Palestinians. I don't necessarily know if I want to say they're on the side of Hamas, but certainly in favor of Palestine. And we can talk history all day long. But what do you have to say to Americans or even Nebraskans who maybe aren't 100% with Israel in this situation?
Well, there's kind of an attack. There can be disagreement on policies, and I can respect disagreement even when I directly disagree with someone. But resorting to this kind of tragedy and violence it's unnecessary, and I think stands to lead to other negative things. But let's hope that things calm down and that cooler heads can prevail, because there's a lot at stake here, and I hope that we can help bring about some calm.
Anything else that you can think of that you would like to add, sir?
I think we're good.
All righty, Congressman, thank you for your time, and we'll chat again probably at some point.
You bet.
Thank you.
Go Big Red. Take care.
I guess for starters, so what's your reaction to this attack by Hamas on Israel?
Well, I can't get my mind off of it. It was the most barbaric, dehumanizing, evil thing that I've seen in my lifetime. We've seen some of this with ISIS. We saw some of it with Al-Qaeda, a little bit with Taliban. We saw some in Rwanda. But to see the actual pictures of the dragging naked women that were murdered down the streets of Gaza, the slapping of a little boy and torturing him basically on TV in Gaza, and just seeing the indiscriminate murders all over. I mean, they just found another 100 bodies in a little village a few hours ago, taking the count to about 900 dead Israelis. I think 12 Americans now. But it's one of the most barbaric, dehumanizing, evil things I've seen in my lifetime. And I am fully on board with helping Israel crush Hamas.
And with that, what do you think that Congress must do in reacting to this? And then with that, there's no Speaker of the House right now. How does that play a curveball in there?
Well, it was disgraceful to have 8 Republicans, 4% of the Republican conference, vote to remove the Speaker, siding with 100% of the Democrats. I'll only say it again, 4% of the Republicans. We now have a vacant Speaker chair, and it has crippled our response in the short run to respond, because you got to have a Speaker to vote on aid, to support Israel in other ways. And I hope these 8 people are held accountable by their constituents at home. It's hurt our country. That we have a history in the Congress of supporting the Speaker, the majority party, once you select one, and these guys don't know how to do it. So that hurts us. But when it's all said and done, America must stand shoulder to shoulder with Israel. They're going to need precision missiles and basically kinetic, we call it kinetic weapons, but surface-to-surface missiles primarily, and also air-to-surface missiles that are very accurate. We can support them with that. We'll have to support them with logistics, support them with intelligence. And we got to remember, they kidnapped Americans as well there. And I think the current count is 12 Americans were killed. So therefore, yeah, we should be all in on helping Israel. I mean, it's our fight as well. And I would be that way anyway if it was just all Israelis. But We've had Americans kidnapped and killed too. We should be there all the way and helping them out. And then the goal should be to destroy the Hamas ability to fight or to lead.
And would you support, given the speaker's situation, if President Biden were to take executive authority, to use that in order to send aid or troops to Israel?
I'll do whatever is constitutional. I'd have to study that. You got to have constitutional authorities. The Congress is responsible for appropriating money. But I think there should be a spotlight on the 8 individuals who have weakened our country, weakened the House, and it was unnecessary. 4% did this. Prima donnas who love the media, they love the attention, but I don't think they love our country the way they should.
And with this attack, considering your military background that you have, can you explain a little bit of what exactly this means on a world stage, on a U.S. stage?
Well, I think big picture, you see a alliance developing between Russia, Iran, and China in various degrees. But if you look at it, Iran is helping arm Russia and the Hamas. So there's a bigger strategic level here. And Hamas would never have done this without Iran's weapon support. Also, their leadership, their advising on strategy and plans. They were helping the Hamas do this at every step. And so we have to realize that this is not just Hamas. Iran is behind it. And to say I'm fearful is not necessarily the right word, but I realize that Israel will probably consider Iran as really behind this. And I think it's not going to just be Israel versus Hamas by the time we're done. There'll probably be some strikes done on Iran. This is my best guess. We have to realize Iran also controls the Hezbollah north of Israel. And you're going to probably see some operations from the Hezbollah attacking Israel from Lebanon and southwest Syria. So I don't think this is going to be contained just with the Gaza Strip in Israel.
And so with the hostage situation, what in your mind would be the perfect response to that?
Well, we've seen before with Hamas that they're not going to negotiate for these hostages. In fact, the one incident we have, they exchanged 1,000 Hamas hostages, Israel did, for one Israeli soldier. This is where these folks are at. Now, these hostages unfortunately, their lives are endangered and a threat. And they're hoping that Israel will not come in with the full might of their military. But even if Israel does not, these hostages are not going to be returned. I'm just saying it's reality dealing with these people. We saw what they did in these villages where they just massacred dads, moms, children, husbands, wives, older ladies. They viciously tortured them. I mean, this is where their hearts are at with the Hamas terrorists there. So I think Israel's going to have to come in with full force. They've already turned off the electricity. They've barricaded Gaza for any supplies coming in or anything going out. And you're going to see a military operation there and they're going to try to crush Hamas, and they should.
And have you had any indication that there will be more troops deployed there at this time? Is that in any sort of discussion that you've heard?
Well, I don't think there'll be U.S. forces there. Israel can do this on their own, but they're going to probably need our weapon support, other logistics support, could be oil or fuel, things like that. And we will support them. We should support them to the full degree. This put it in perspective. We lost 2,977 people on September 11th, 2001. Per capita, the Israelis have lost the equivalent of like 20,000 people because their population is so much smaller. This is so devastating to their country. Every Israeli there knows somebody who's been killed, raped, or tortured, or taken hostage. And so this is their 9/11, but even worse for Israel. And I think we should be clear too. This is not about Israel having occupied territories. It's not about some kind of peace agreement. The Israelis have offered a two-state solution, and Hamas and the Palestinian Authority both have said no to it. They've been offered 98% of the geography that they've asked for, and they still say no. The fact is, Hamas in particular, but also the Palestinian Authority, refuses to recognize Israel as a Jewish state. In other words, they don't want Israel to exist as a Jewish state. And this is what this is about. Hamas wants to destroy Israel. And so this isn't about negotiating with someone that are trying to get the right territorial agreements. No, this is a group of people who would, if they had it their way, would murder every Israeli if they could. And so we have to look at this with clear eyes and open eyes.
And so, speaking to Nebraskans now, what do you think that Nebraskans should know in regards to this, just in closing?
Well, I'm 100% standing by our ally. And I think most Nebraskans are too. I feel very sad for my Israeli brothers and sisters. I know many. I've been there. I used to work with them in the military when I was a colonel. I helped set up missile defenses there. I also know a lot of our Jewish Americans. I've talked to many in Omaha and all over Nebraska who are devastated because they have family there in Israel, for example. So this is hard on our Jewish Americans and our Israeli allies. It's brutal. To see the scenes there demands action. I mean, I cannot get my mind off how barbaric the scenes I've seen. It'll live with me for the rest of my life. We got to be 100% in, back in our allies. That would be my message to Nebraska.
Awesome. Anything else you would like to add in here? I appreciate your taking the time to answer some questions for me.
Well, I'm pleased that you asked, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hey, thank you so much, and hopefully we can get everything done here.
Yes, sir. Have a good day.